Season 1 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the latest TV show by Disney Plus, is 4 episodes down, and the list of Greek mythological creatures making an appearance on the show is ever increasing and most welcome. The show uses the mythical monsters from Greek mythology to their advantage in terms of world building, with the occasional appearance of a Greek god or goddess here and there. The 4th episode is no exception. A brief appearance is made by a family of centaurs that Percy looks at from the window of the train, and a Nereid, a water nymph, shows up in the Mississippi River with a message from Percy's father. But the show's stealing debut was made by the well-awaited Echidna's Chimera. The immortal mother of the monsters, Echidna herself, makes a mysterious entry with one of her newborn chimeras realized to perfection. Percy has an exciting face-off against the iconic Greek mythical monster atop the historical monument, the Gateway Arch of St. Louis. An encounter he barely survives. Having seen the climatic action sequences featuring this beast, we here at Marvelous Videos felt the other need to do a deep dive into the fire-breathing monstrous hybrid creature. So without any further ado, here's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Chimera Explored. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Roots of origins in Greek mythology. The head and thorax of a lioness, the abdomen and legs of a goat with a head emerging from the middle of the back, a serpent tail with a snake's head at the end of it, and an ability to breathe fire capable of melting its enemies' armors. The Chimera is one of the most recognizable monsters to come out of Greek mythology that made its way into numerous depictions of it across art and literature. This 3-headed hybrid monster is said to come from ancient Lycia, Anatolia, and a daughter born to Typhos, a monstrous serpentine giant from Greek mythology, and Echidna, the mother of monsters. A constant presence in the imagery depicting Hellenic worlds across all cultures, the fear of the beast is a cultural phenomenon, even though its depictions varied from culture to culture, like having the additional head and wings of a dragon in some depictions. The Chimera, being the embodiment of terror, is considered a symbol of a bad omen in some cultures, with the sheer act of spotting one or even dreaming of a chimera meaning the approaching of an unfortunate mishap in the near future. The terrifyingly hideous monster is also said to represent all the evilness created by man's perverse imagination and the dangerous monster he carries within himself. In Greek mythology, the Chimera was considered a lethal enemy in battle, being able to breathe fire at enemies hot enough to melt their weapons and armor away. Despite its giant size, the monster is said to be extremely agile and exceptionally fast, making it a difficult target to attack. The lioness limbs of the Chimera carried unparalleled strength that could rip apart enemies with its claws, and the serpent tail could inject a highly poisonous venom that paralyzed enemies before getting ripped apart. Any enemy who dared to face the Chimera in battle had to be extremely aware of all its abilities to stand a chance against it. According to the legends, the mighty beast met its end as a direct result of its reign of terror over the region of the kingdom of Lycia, when it was confronted by one of the major heroes of Greek mythology, Bellerophon. He was told in legends as a protege of the goddess Athena, a friend of Perseus, and was considered a monster killer. King Lobates of Lycia asked the hero to get rid of the terrifying monster once and for all, as he had all the abilities to fight the Chimera and also rode a Pegasus. The warrior, while astride the Pegasus, drove a lead-tipped lance into the beast's flaming throat, making it choke on molten metal, bringing its terrifying story to an end. The Demigod Killer. Percy, Anubis, and Grover are caught in a bind when they get falsely arrested on a train for trashing their cabin, as reported by a mysterious woman from a nearby cabin. Although she initially poses as a well-wisher, the woman eventually reveals herself to be the mother of monsters, Echidna, and her presence on the train is to unleash her infant chimera on our heroes as a hunt. Not revealed immediately, the chimera only sticks out its tail from the pet carrier it was in and stabs Percy with a stinger in his heart. The trio manages to escape the monster and run away on the train when the chimera is spotted by a family of mortals from a cabin and one of the compartments, to whom the beast appears as a yappy chihuahua terrorizing kids because of the mist, the magical veil that conceals the mythical world from humans. Eventually, the chase reaches its climax when Percy is forced to face the Chimera atop the monument of the Gateway Arch of St. Louis, and the monster is finally revealed in all its terrifying glory. Grover recognizes the Chimera immediately from the shape of its shadow on the wall and refers to it as a demigod killer. The Chimera on the show was marginally small in size, as it was said to be a pup who was just learning to hunt and couldn't trail far off from her mother. In the final face-off against Percy, the Chimera is accompanied by her mother Echidna. Percy draws his pen sword and takes a swing at the Chimera's limbs, but barely puts a scratch on it. The same sword that cut off the Minotaur's horn in the first episode. Meanwhile, the Chimera flings a lazy paw at Percy and sends him flying off and hitting the side of the observation deck. She also takes a shot of spitting fire at Percy, which he barely escapes. Percy manages to make it safely out of this encounter with the Chimera only after the mighty Poseidon comes to his rescue.
You should run now.
Different appearance. The appearance of the monster on the show is slightly different from its depictions in Greek mythology and other literature. This Chimera was the amalgamation of different animals rather than being a horribly disfigured abomination with a protruding goat head from the middle of the body and a serpent's head on the tail. It had the head and most of its body of a lioness with massive horns of a goat and an overall scaly texture leading up to its tail of a dragon. This design was a simplistic approach to the appearance of the Chimera that took a departure from the horrifying three-headed depiction that stood as a symbol of terror. This approach made the monster visually palatable for the live-action depiction, whereas the monstrosity with a goat's head growing through the middle of the trunk would have been difficult to pull off. A probable reason as to why the monster was swapped for the Hydra in the 2010 live-action film Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief, in the scene where Percy, Annabeth, and Grover encounter the Hydra at the Parthenon in Nashville, Tennessee. The Parthenon in Nashville is based on a temple with the same name in Athens, which is dedicated to Athena, just like the Gateway Arch of St. Louis is revealed to be in the 4th episode of the show, and the Lernaean Hydra is a sibling to the Chimera, being born to the same parents. Although it seems to follow logic, this decision in the 2010 film was not well received by the fans, as the fighting scene between Percy and the Chimera was one of the more memorable scenes in the book. The TV show, however, wins the admiration of fans as it brings the Chimera to life for the screen in an exciting climatic scene at the end of the episode. Marvelous verdict. Adding yet another iconic monster to the list of creatures featured on the show from the huge plethora of monsters coming from Greek mythology, Percy Jackson and the Olympians has gotten the excitement in the air turned up high. If every creature and monster borrowed from Greek mythology were to be depicted with such care and brought to life in such great detail, consider our doubts and worries set aside and count us invested for the episodes to come. Nothing would be more exciting than to see Percy heroically get through more encounters like these, and we will be right here to bring you more coverage on Percy Jackson and his adventures when that happens. Until then, stay tuned to Marvelous Videos. If you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.